Hello and welcome back to Parc Fermé Parlay with Kieran Downey. I did not expect to be making this video. I mean, I expected to make it, I just did not expect to be making it now. But we're here today to discuss the quite shocking news that Red Bull have dropped Liam Lawson and he will be replaced by Yuki Tsunoda from the Japanese Grand Prix onwards. Now this isn't entirely shocking to me because I kind of thought that at some point throughout this season that Liam Lawson would be dropped to Racing Bulls and Yuki Tsunoda would take his place if his performance, like we've had these past two races, continued to not be good, to be quite frank. Not qualifying good, not scoring points, just all round pretty poor performances. Did I expect that it would happen after two races? No. Not one part of me thought that Red Bull would be that savage and drop Liam Lawson after two races. It's been 2 weeks. Listen, there was lots of rumours going around for quite a while that Lawson would be dropped for Japan, and I didn't really believe them because I thought that's too wild even for Red Bull. But no. Red Bull have once again proved us all wrong that they are utterly insane, because this whole situation is insane. Now listen, I'm going to preference this video by saying I was one of the people that was cheering for Yuki and shouting for Yuki and believed that Yuki Tsunoda should have been in the Red Bull seat from the get-go. But when Red Bull made their decision to put Liam Lawson in the car, I was like, probably not the right choice, and I made my whole video about it saying, doesn't seem like the right move. Is Red Bull repeating the mistakes that they've made in the past? And I did. I thought Red Bull was making a mistake. I got slandered online from a lot of Liam Lawson fans who said, nope, he'll be grand, he'll be great. He is a fantastic driver, and he is a very good driver. But I could not escape the feeling that Red Bull were making a mistake that they were going to end up regretting. We all sat there a few years ago and thought how savage Red Bull was when they dropped Pierre Gasly after half a season, when Alex Albon got demoted to a reserve driver role after a few races. We all seen what happened with Daniel Ricciardo last year, and it just felt like we are about to put a driver into a situation where they're not ready in a very volatile environment, and it's all going to crash and burn. Granted, I thought it would take us longer than 2 weeks to get here, but here we are. When they put Liam in that car, I made my peace with it, and I wanted him to do well. You cannot say that his two performances so far this year have been anything other than shocking. Pretty much a disaster. And yes, I was critical about his performance in these two races. However, he has not been given an actual chance. 2 weeks is not enough of a chance. It's absolutely savage. And those 2 weeks, those two races, one of them was Albert Park in the rain, a track he's never raced at before. 2 was China, a sprint weekend. He had one practice session and then was going straight into 4 competitive sessions, again at a track he's never raced at. It does feel like he's not actually been given a chance at all. We're then about to come up to Japan, which is a track he knows very well from his Super Formula days. He's then going to do Bahrain, a track he also knows very well. Surely you would base his performance on these coming races, and listen, if he's shite after these races, he's shite after these races, but then at least you've got the sort of data from 4 very different tracks and very different conditions. Some he knows, some he doesn't. We're going off tracks he doesn't know in extreme conditions. It just doesn't make sense to me. And, you know, my big question about all of this is, what are Red Bull seeing that we obviously aren't? What data or what is it that they are seeing that has made them go code red? Because Crofty made a very good point that they have all the historical data from Liam when he did those races, from tests he's done, from Yuki for what, near enough 100 Grand Prix that he's done. They have all this historical data. They chose to back Liam, and what is it that in these 2 races they've had to convene in Dubai, the big wigs of Red Bull, to discuss the future of the team and the drivers? What was it that made them make this call only 2 weeks in? Because listen, it's a very long season and a lot can change very, very quickly. The team are obviously wanting to retain the Drivers' Championship with Max. They're wanting to regain the Constructors' Championship from McLaren this year. And have they already thought, we're just waving this goodbye already with Liam Lawson? there is no chance that with him we're going to get it. Punt him and let's get Yuki in. I'm just really keen to know what was the deciding factor from Red Bull to say, he is not our driver, we need Yuki Tsunoda. To convene in Dubai and have this emergency talk 2 weeks into the season to decide to drop a driver, and then not even tell the driver. There's been rumours going around, and Kim Illman, the photographer from Australia, he did a video and he said that actually, that when the news broke in the media, Liam Lawson hadn't been informed that he was being dropped, and he learned through the press. As I said, when I seen the rumours, I was very, very sceptical up until ESPN started writing about it, and the confidence at which they wrote that article and put it out and they stood by it, it was only a matter of time. We were all just then waiting for the announcement, and it obviously came on Thursday. I have to say, if there's one thing Red Bull does well, it is just completely shattering the confidence of their young drivers. Red Bull used to have one of the best driver development programs in Formula One, and they're known for not even being cutthroat, but for just being, quite frankly, brutal in their handling of their younger drivers. And not even just their younger drivers, actually, it's just sort of whoever's holding that second seat. And what's worse is, we get this announcement, and then Christian Horner is quoted saying, "We have a duty of care to our drivers." That's a joke. If that team had a duty of care for their drivers, which they will do, but they don't act it. Because if they actually took that seriously, if they took that statement of duty of care seriously, none of this stuff would be happening. Their actions do not co-align with that statement. I mean, in the past couple of seasons, we've literally got this situation with Liam Lawson happening right now. He's been promoted into the team, he's been demoted in 2 weeks. He's not even been told about it, probably found out through the press, because that's the way Red Bull like to do things. Last year, we had the entire situation with Daniel Ricciardo getting dropped. Not so much him actually being dropped, but the way in which it all happened. We then have the past 2 seasons watching Checo Perez spectacularly fall apart, his confidence crumble, and get no support from that team whatsoever. And let's not forget, Helmut Marko constantly bitching to the press, all sorts of statements about the drivers within that team, whether it be Checo or Daniel or Hadjar or Yuki, and the excuse that Horner gives of, oh, he's an 80-year-old man, it doesn't cut it for me. As I said, they had one of the best driver development programs in Formula One. They had some of the best talent coming through there. They had an eye for spotting fantastic drivers, and they have completely tarnished the whole thing. The man that is there in charge of their driver development program, that is supposed to be the one with the eye for talent, is nothing but a horrible old man that has no compassion or anything, and is quite frankly one of the worst representatives you could have of your company. Red Bull is notorious for coming out and saying that, this is our person, we are sticking with them, and then just completely abandon them when things get a little bit rocky and just drop them as soon as they can. When that team picked Liam Lawson, they should have been ready to back him wholeheartedly. Yes, if we'd got into the summer break and things hadn't improved and, they were really at risk of losing the constructors, I could understand making a swap. But to drop him after 2 races just screams incompetence to me. Even with Yuki Tsunoda, they looked over him time and time and time again, and the evidence actually to back Yuki was so compelling that we were all screaming to get him into the car for this year, and they just completely cast him aside. But now Yuki's the only one that can be in that car. It's complete bullshit. Yuki Tsunoda's experience is literally being cited as the reason that they are making this switch now, that he is the one, his experience in Formula One, having done roughly about 100 Grand Prix, that he can come in and bring all his experience, and between him and Max and all of these other sort of factors, that they can really sort of propel that car forward, and that all that experience is why they've gone and made the switch. It doesn't really hold for me, because all that experience that Yuki Tsunoda had wasn't enough 2 races ago. It wasn't deemed important enough 2 races ago when the decisions were made to put Liam Lawson in the car and overlook Yuki yet again. But now Yuki's the only one. Listen, 2024 was not a smooth ride for Red Bull at all. And it was very clear that that team needed experience. The need for experience was necessary. So it was baffling that they ever went with Liam Lawson in the first place. Will Yuki stick it by Max? Probably not. And history suggests that that will sort of be the case, that he won't just step foot in the car and suddenly be, bring that second car beside Max Verstappen in a qualifying session or, during a race. I do think that he will struggle. And listen, I don't think that this is going to be a career-ending move for Yuki Tsunoda, but I do think he'll struggle. Listen, he had to say yes to this offer. He had to say yes. It looks worse on Yuki Tsunoda to turn down an offer at a top team than to go to that top team and struggle with the car, because we all know the car is incredibly difficult, and people will look upon that situation and say that car's not the best. We've actually seen what Yuki can do in a midfield team. We know he's an incredibly good driver, and we know that car is incredibly difficult to drive. I don't think this will be a career-ending move for Yuki Tsunoda, but in saying that, he does not have a choice. He has to go to that team because he cannot be seen to be turning down offers from a top team. I've also seen a lot of stuff about Max's contract sort of being the reason why they are making this switch so quickly, that Max has a get out clause in his contract, that he can just terminate his contract and leave the team depending on, sort of where the team is in the constructors, that he has a sort of get out clause. He doesn't really need to pay money or pay his way out of his contract. He can just leave. And I think that if that is true, I'm not too sure if it is or not, but if that is true, that will be a massive factor in getting Yuki Tsunoda into that car and getting Liam Lawson out, because they cannot risk losing Max Verstappen. He is their star driver. He is the one that is scoring them points. He is the 4-time world champion. They cannot risk losing him. I can see, if that is true, that being a huge factor in the decision making here. Red Bull has always played fast and loose with their drivers' contracts, and they've always been quite cutthroat, but this is just a new low, and you can tell just how shocking this is by the reaction that this has had across Formula One. From, the fans, from the media, you've got commentators like Crofty, ex-commentators like Will Buxton, tearing the team apart, saying that this is incredibly a new low for this team, and this is actually shocking that this is going on. You've got former Formula One drivers saying that this almost amounts to bullying, and that post is actually liked by Ruth Buscombe, who is a commentator. It's liked by Max, Pierre, Oscar. Like, this is a move that has really shocked a lot of people. There was also an article posted in a New Zealand newspaper very much on the side of Liam Lawson, and it is the Red Bull adverts that are that sort of sketch drawing, Red Bull gives you wings, that sort of advert where, and the title is Red Bull clips your wings. This whole movement of drivers is incredibly bad PR for Red Bull. It's kind of twofold, to be fair, because we're about to go to Japan. Yuki Tsunoda is the only Japanese driver. He is beloved in that country. And Red Bull now have him as their driver. They've just promoted him. So there will be a lot of love there. But outside of that small ecosphere of the Japanese Grand Prix, this looks terrible for Red Bull. And you only have to go online to see just how damaging this has been to Red Bull. My dad is actually a Red Bull fan and has been for quite a while, and he texts me the other day saying, Tsunoda to replace Lawson for the next race onwards, which is what we should have done in the first place. You think that following Ferrari is stressful? Red Bull are fully worse when it comes to making half-baked decisions. This is damaging for Red Bull. And to be quite frankly, they only have themselves to blame. Lawson had only had 11 race starts when they decided to put him into the top team. Yuki, as I've said, has round about 100 Grand Prix starts. Who is making these calls? Because it's very easy for us to say it's Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, but there was other people in that room. And whenever these big things happen, such as Daniel getting dropped, Checo getting dropped, Liam being promoted, Yuki being promoted and Liam being dropped, all these decisions, it's always Horner and a nondescript group of people, which is a very I don't want to say smart way, but it's a, you know, it's a way of lessening the accountability for Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. That being said, the accountability does have to be on the team. It does have to be, the buck stops with Christian Horner. At the end of the day, he's the one leading this team. No decisions are going to be made without his say-so. And Red Bull has a history of putting all of the accountability for these decisions being made on the drivers. Not in a way that they're the one making the call, but in that the team had no other choice but to do this because they put all the blame onto the drivers. No other team in Formula One has such a huge disparity when it comes to their two drivers and the performance levels and the treatment of those drivers. Take Red Bull social media, for example. You go onto Red Bull social media, it's like Liam Lawson just didn't exist. He just wasn't present. They actually were posting photos of him and then taking them down. Every single time there is negative performance within that Red Bull team, if the cars are not performing, if the team is not performing, they hype the blame onto the drivers. Red Bull's lack of performance in 2024 and 25 so far, just now, is not the second driver's fault, and they need to stop playing the blame game because it's utterly ridiculous. And it's going to end up costing, if they continue down this road of constantly blaming the drivers, it's going to cost them in the long run, because there will become a point where their first driver, their lead driver, the star of their show, Max Verstappen, will tire of the blame game constantly being on the drivers. You can already see the cracks are starting to show. Max is liking posts, as I said, from former drivers about how this kind of amounts to bullying, that all the blame is being put on Liam Lawson. It's a dangerous game they're playing, and they're not going to want to continue down that road because it will only hurt the team more. And they need to keep Max Verstappen sweet, because the moment they lose Max, they could be the 10th fastest team. It's absolutely crazy that we are 2 races into the season and we've already had a driver dropped. I actually think Lawson being dropped after 2 races is maybe one of the shortest stints in Formula One history for a driver. I don't think it's the shortest, but it's definitely in and around that area. I feel incredibly sorry for Liam Lawson, to be honest with you, because you could see his confidence was knocked, and it'll have taken a big knock now being demoted into that second team after only 2 races. However, there is a bit of a silver lining, and when I look at it, I kind of think that the only person that's going to win in this situation is Liam Lawson. He's about to rejoin a team that he knows very well. It's an environment he knows very well because he's been there for 11 races. And he's about to step foot into a car that is performing quite well, that is capable of Q3, capable of scoring points. The only downside is that every time each of these drivers get, you know, into a points position, like Yuki Tsunoda might be running 6th or 7th, the team decide to make some bold strategy calls and it hikes them further down the grid. But, you know, he is about to step into a team that is performing pretty well so far, and their car is a much smoother ride than the Red Bull. As I said, is capable of Q3 qualifying appearances and scoring some decent points. He could end up getting his confidence back pretty quickly in a much easier car to drive, and then ending up performing pretty decently and scoring some pretty big points. So he could be the real winner in all of this. I mean, it's horrible that this has happened to him and this is how he's gotten there, and you know, he should never have been put into the Red Bull seat in the first place. It's too big a challenge for a driver that's only done 11 races. But looking to the rest of the year, he is in maybe one of the best spots. I did not expect to be making this this video before Japan, the 3rd race of the season, but here we are. And speaking of Japan, we'll be back very soon with our predictions for the Japanese Grand Prix. Enjoy the rest of your day. I love you. Bye.